She had spent the last 3 years telling herself she was fine. Maya Reeves was 34 years old, a school librarian with a warm smile and a quiet apartment that echoed just a little. Too much on winter evenings, and she had convinced herself that being fine was enough. When her coworker Priya had suggested a Christmas blind date, he's a single dad. Maya, he's kind. Just try it. She had almost said no. Almost. Something small and stubborn in her chest had whispered that maybe this Christmas could be different. And so, on a cold December evening, she had curled her hair, worn the red dress she had been saving for an occasion she could never quite name, and walked into the warmth of Rosario's Italian bistro, with a hope so fragile she was almost afraid to breathe near it. The man waiting at the table was handsome enough, Daniel Mercer, dark-haired, broad-shouldered, with the tired eyes of someone who carried the world quietly, and for the first 20 minutes, conversation flowed. They talked about books, about the strange magic of small-town Christmases, about the kind of life you build when the one you planned falls apart. And then Daniel's phone rang. His face changed instantly. He excused himself with an apology so practiced it told Maya everything she needed to know. This happened often. The interruptions, the constant pivot, and she sat alone at a table decorated with holly and candlelight, feeling the familiar sting of being someone's second priority. Before the entree had even arrived, when he returned, Daniel was already reaching for his coat. There had been a mix-up at his daughter's school Christmas pageant. The babysitter had left early. His 6-year-old Lily was waiting with the school secretary and apparently refusing to go with anyone else. He looked at Maya with eyes full of genuine regret and said, "I'm so sorry. This isn't how tonight was supposed to go." Maya looked at him for one long moment, and then she heard herself say, "I'll come with you." She didn't fully understand why. Maybe it was the librarian in her, trained to move toward the ones who needed something. Maybe it was the dress and the fragile hope, still flickering somewhere behind her ribs. Maybe it was simply Christmas, and she didn't want to go home to an echo. Daniel blinked. "You don't have to do that." "I know," she said, already standing. The school auditorium was still strung with twinkling lights when they arrived, the last of the paper snowflakes swaying from the ceiling in the warm air left behind by 200 families who had already gone home. Lily Mercer was sitting on a folding chair near the front door, small and serious in a green elf costume with a crooked tinsel halo, her little arms crossed and her chin set with the particular stubbornness of a child who has learned to wait without complaint. When Daniel crouched down and held her, Maya stood a few steps back, feeling like a visitor at someone else's most tender moment. But then Lily looked up. Her eyes, enormous and dark, like her father's, traveled from Daniel's face to Maya's, and something shifted in them. Not suspicion, not shyness, something quieter and far more searching. Lily climbed down from her father's arms, walked the 4 steps to Maya, looked up at her with the unfiltered gravity that only a child can carry, and said in a voice perfectly clear and completely serious, "Will you be my new mom?" The auditorium went absolutely still. Daniel made a sound that was halfway between a laugh and an apology. Maya felt her heart crack open in the gentlest possible way, the way a window cracks open in spring to let the first warm air through. She knelt down until she was eye level with this small, earnest little person in her crooked halo, and she said softly, "I just met you tonight, sweetheart, but I think you might be the best thing that's happened to me in a very long time." Lily considered this with tremendous seriousness. Then she nodded, took Maya's hand, and announced she was hungry. They went for hot chocolate at the diner on 5th. Lily sat between them and narrated her entire pageant performance from memory, playing every part, including the donkey, and Maya laughed until her cheeks hurt. Daniel watched her across the table with an expression she would later learn to recognize as wonder. That was Christmas Eve. By the following December, Maya was no longer a visitor in that story. She was home. If this story warmed your heart the way it warmed mine, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner Stories, where every tale reminds us that love finds us exactly when we've stopped looking, and sometimes it arrives wearing a crooked tinsel halo.